Good morning. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2015. Looking at the December S&P E-mini contract and on a monthly chart. After our liquidation break from the highs here, we've retraced in the last several weeks to just above the 61.8 level and have come all the way back down to surprisingly test the 23.6 on this look outside of balance and fail. I have the gray areas, my balance using volume. And anyway, thought that was interesting. And we also see this on the weekly chart, which I'll show you in a second. But the main thing I want to point out is that we are balancing, and we have this is a high wave candle. This bar is a high wave candle, the waves being the look above and look below. We looked all the way above and failed, came all the way back down, looked below and failed. Now we're back in the middle. We're kind of rotating in the overnighter on this 1934 level 100 moving average from a weekly chart. We did test up here to 41.75 after earlier lows 1910.50. So quite a lot of kind of an outside bar in the electronic session, above yesterday's high and below yesterday's low. Now we're back into range again. Be interesting. All right, moving on. Looking at the weekly chart, a couple things of note. I've drawn an opposite type of Fibonacci from the low to the high of the retracement. And we got below the 23.6 where we've remained the last 2 weeks. And have tested down. Yesterday we came to 1775, which is just above this 50% retracement. So we caught the bid here, and again we're back up now, having come back up above the 38 level. Looked above that. That's at 39.50. I recommend having these on our charts, and then are back into range here of yesterday. These kind of reddish lines are the high and low of yesterday. I'll make this a little bigger. Anyway, I want to also point out an interesting thing where we found I use 23.6 for weakness, to measure weakness if it's not just a retracement before we continue to move higher. But it came up and just looked above that a little bit and came back down. So interesting. I'm keeping those levels as references on my chart. Wondering if we'll find support. I'm going to consider 1917 an important no-go level. Coincides with the low of the day. Of course, we want to look at the overnight low, another 7.5 handles below that, or 6.5 handles below that. That'll be the next stop before testing the low of this range slash balance area. It'd be interesting to see if we can get all the way, if we do continue on the downside where you have these, take it sequentially, see if we get down and if we do get another look below this area right here, I think it'd be interesting to see if we get to 61.8. Now, we have some things going on as well that are, I think, at least for me, I look at this. Let's do this. All right, so right now we're in between these areas, which you can see I'm using the volume on this area here. This one shouldn't be so far in front. There we go, that's better. Anyway, when we get down here, this level here looks to be about 25, 26, 25, 75, 26. We need to get acceptance into there before we get any more downside. I know there's a lot of information here. Each one of these is a balance area that we could get accepted or rejected into, starting with the yesterday's value area and this morning's initial balance, but as well as the range itself of yesterday. we need to look sometimes at some of these areas because there's just a lot of things in the road to be aware of. So anyway, this will make a little more sense on a daily chart, but we are not one-time framing down yet on a weekly. Won't know that till next week, and just have to take it one step at a time. All right, moving to the daily. All right, hopefully this makes a little bit more sense now. We have had gaps down past week or so. Had a gap down here, has not been repaired. Had another gap yesterday, it's not been repaired. The overnight still did not get up to the prior high day, only got to 41.75. And we're looking at, right now, we're back at 1933 in yesterday's range. Yesterday, we got rejected pretty hard off this 1917 50% retracement, which also coincided with the bottom of this this area here. So it's a balance area within a balance area using volume. You see the high volume node here. It's areas where price is accepted, but got kicked back out of there, and now we're in this cavity here. So I'm wondering, are we going to rotate in here and kind of balance again before moving back up to repair some of the structure, or is it going to resume to the downside, make another shot at it? I don't know. We'll see what happens today. We do have news in 22 minutes. We've got jobless claims, we've got durable goods, I believe it is, and then at 10 a.m. I think is housing starts. One moment, let me open this up here. Just a second. Just verify what I'm saying here. Durable goods, jobless claims are at 8:30, and then new home sales, not housing starts. New home sales at 10 a.m. There's also an interesting little thing at 5 p.m. which would support, in my opinion, just balancing today and maybe repairing the gap, maybe and failing, and just sometimes these caverns of low volume get backfilled, and I'm seeing that as a possibility today with just some rotation, possibly even down to this top of this area at 1926. But anyway, what I want to point out was Janet Yellen speaks at 5 p.m. Now it's at Amherst College or something like that, and but nevertheless, I think that sometimes when she's about to have a public announcement of any kind, whether it's just a speech at a college, there are people probably waiting to see what she says, to read things into it, get an edge, or get a little foresight or insight, and I don't know. But that little note right there would kind of support a notion of kind of a little bit milder day. But based on the overnight and the deal with the Volkswagen scandal, I don't know. I think the overnight was pretty crazy, and there may be a lot of balancing going on today or adjustment from that. You know, let me move the daily out of the way here. I don't think we need it anymore for the moment. So you can see we traded completely outside of yesterday's range. Quite an active overnight session where we started off initially 100% short, and the last 2-3, well, more than that, last several hours, it's completely taken all that back, and even looked above yesterday's range. Now we're in the upper half. As it stands right now, of course, we got another hour and 15 minutes to go. I want to see if we open in range above value. That will be significant to me. In range in value, which would be a little more riskier, choppier to start. Might want to wait for things set up. Or if we end up coming back up and get a little bit of a gap here. Waiting to see what happens there. But right now, I'm considering the overnight inventory is fairly neutral, having been both long and short in the overnight. But right now, we're neutral. All right, so let's look above here, though, at the structures. We have this gap here that has not been repaired. Let me back it down. Let's let's see, today is 23rd. Okay, so this structure here on Monday, pretty horrible. This POC has not been repaired, and it's 9 wide. Lots of anomalous things going on. A lot of emotional trading. Let's see here. If we continue up, we have this gap that is from 1969 to 1972, and that's not been repaired. And then if we look at the structure above that, we have another prominent point of control. TPOC has not been repaired. And I'm going to clean some of these lines up here. Don't need that, don't need that. Okay. If the overnight wasn't here, you'd see this VPOC has not been repaired either. So there's just a lot of stuff above. Several anomalies, very elongated profile, another gap here with the VPOC not repaired yet. Goes all the way back to here. That's very interesting too. It's just in the one period, entire day. Naked TPOC here. You know, this is only back just till last week. So there's a lot of upside potential. A lot of, look how thin it was. I mean, there was certainly volume, but it was very thin time-wise. I mean, it came down here very far, very fast, and it's not been repaired. I have a gap here from 13 to 15 quarter. Anyway, all this for me is saying, well, there's some potential upside. I mean, there needs to be some a recall up to that area at some point. I'm expecting. But right now the market's in indecision. There's some extraneous events going on with the Volkswagen wickedness, whatever you want to call it, scandal. Let's see here. All right. So scenarios for today. As it stands right now, I'm looking at balance rules within today. I'm going to see if I could split this profile off into two. Just a moment. All right, let's look at this profile here. We had this rally high. I think it's a level that could catch some support. Okay. And we auctioned up from this poor low. So we had a poor low yesterday, which I believe the way it rallied, we were too short. This is not a poor low. I'm really super concerned about it getting revisited. That's not something that I'm putting emphasis on. It came down and almost immediately came back up. So I'm going to split this off. We had a start of a new auction here. Let's see how that looks for us. All right, I'm going to get rid of the overnight. All right, interestingly enough, I split the profile off, and it did not change the range or the value area too much. So we have kind of the same thing. The TPOC is here. However, here the VPOC is at 33. There's a lot of volume into the close. I've got some high volume nodes here. You could even consider this area from here to here as a balance area. Now there's a lot of lines to keep track of, but I think coming into the open, this will be interesting to see if we get a break above this and catch support, break below it, catch resistance. So if we open now, all right, looks like they're moving it on up again, taking it up above. All right, so we got two scenarios. I'm looking at as a whole. Well, we got more than that. I'm going to look at it this way. Let me get my pen out. All right, number one is going to be balance rules against yesterday's range. So we're looking at just for the whole range of yesterday, balance rules. Okay. All right, I should probably just forget writing. It's kind of too difficult. So balance rules for the entire range. That's sort of the broader look here. Number one. Okay. Number two, we're looking at this little area right here as being sort of a balance area. Now we're above it right now, but if we open inside of it or stay above it, I'm looking at this as possible support. This whole area right now, because we're above it, is support. If we are in it, balance rules are going to apply in here from 33.75 to 30.75. I could imagine for right now, like let's say we opened right here, we could either look above, fail, and then start to make our way through here. Maybe if we can't, to come back out again. Okay, I'm going to clear this off for a second. I'm just, again, it helps me to sort of imagine what can happen. If we open here and hit this, can't get in there, back out. And again, this could happen just from, we could even gap up and come into here and not get down here. I think this is an area that we need to get through. There's a lot of volume. You can see I think this is significant. Might even want to call it this level here at 34.25 because there's 13.95 right there, 12.703 right there. Maybe I move that line up. Let me do that real quick. See these volume nodes here. I think this whole area is important. So right now we're coming back out of range right now. So and that's the case. I had balance rules as what's in play, but if that's the case, we're going to have a small gap, and then we just have to take it sequentially. First thing, if we're going to gap up, I would look for, if we can't close this gap, get value to unchanged. I think, and that's going to mean getting through this. I would look for initiating activity above the opening range as a way to get long, or you could use one of these areas as support, 34.25, maybe even down here at 31 if it can't get through and comes back up, which is effectively going to be unchanged. It's going to be the 100 moving average. And all this stuff sort of is confluent. It's going to be top of this volume area here, going to be the top of the value area here, going to be the top of the value area here. Got the opening range from yesterday from here to here. You got a lot of stuff right in here. So this is an area that could come down and get sluggish, have trouble really breaking through. Got the pivot point here. So if we do get some, momentum, I mean, we just have a lot of barbed wire on the banisters, the way I like to call it. It's just, so this actually would cause me to favor the upside today. The upside in the sense, not necessarily one-time framing up, but maybe repairing the gap, maybe just churning around in what I had determined before was some lower volume areas. Let me pull that back in here. I know the video is getting a little long, but this is how it's done. You got to prepare, and I know it takes time, and that's a weekly. Excuse me. And the more like right in here. Oh, I just set an alarm level. Didn't mean to do that. So this whole area, it's interesting. There's a high volume node here on a longer term basis. Let me point that out again. Right there. And that coincides with the unchanged, which coincides with that little area that we talked about, the 100 moving average, right in here. There's a lot of problems getting back through here possibly. I can see the market spending time in here, maybe trying to find acceptance up in here, and you've got a high volume node here, which would not quite closing the gap. I don't know. I'm thinking today's range, unless there's some real short covering action, which could easily happen. maybe look above here and fail. You know, I know my drawings aren't that great, but I am more neutral to bullish today. Maybe I'm wrong. We could just come right on down again. But I really think there's going to be it. I think if it happens, unless there's massive volume on the open, I don't think it's happening early on. And if we do spend a lot of time in here trying, you know, if we can't really get down in here, then look for a later day rally. If we don't come up here first and then come back down. Okay, I know there's a lot of situations I'm describing, but hopefully you're thinking it through with me, and you can see the important thing is that that we point out that on yesterday's trading, okay, where to go? Okay, on yesterday's trading, we split the distributions out, and yes, we have a prominent point of control. I'm aware of that. So that does back into the downside. But if we split this out, I think it's this part's what's important, is this little area of high volume, both in this part of the distribution and this part. And these are the times of the day where there's more volume in the initial balance and in the end of the day. And boy, it was just a lot of business up in here, and they're trying to push it up again now. So, you know, gap rules are in play if we open above yesterday's range, and even if we haven't closed this gap yet, if we don't close the gap, if we do gap up, that will create this island reversal type of a situation, which is fairly bullish if we gap up and can't even close it. But I don't like days like this when it's just so indecisive what we're looking at coming into the open in an hour. And I'm probably just doing this video maybe, well, I don't like to say I'm doing it too early, but sometimes you get this to happen where it's just like in a real hard to see area, and that's when we have to dig deeper, I believe, to see these little details, because we traded all the way down below yesterday's low, all the way down to here in the overnight session, but since it's all been corrected, come back, or most of it's been corrected, we're all the way back up, and still in range at the highs of yesterday, but we're above this area, above the 100 moving average on the weekly, above unchanged, above the value area high, above these volume nodes, above the pivot. We've got a lot of support underneath us, is what I'm trying to say. So if we do get through this, I think it is very important to get on board. Hopefully, I think one thing you could look for would be the 80% rule to the downside. When we get into yesterday's value area, I think that would have higher odds of succeeding, because once we're below this area, all this is going to be resistance. We have a prominent point of control down here, prominent VPOC. You can't really see them well now because I have this split off. So that's a trade idea. The downside is looking for these 1930-75 and unchanged 100 moving average and the value area high to become resistance. I'll move them together. So getting down here below 30, and look, the volume value area is right on unchanged. Right, so that's one way to play it to the downside. One way to play it to the upside would be to look for this area here, the value area high, this 30-75, where the high volume nodes were, to be support. If we can't really get through there, we really struggle. Might want to look for maybe even a look below and fail. Look below, it comes back in, we're coming back up, and we're gonna test this probably. So I don't want to number the scenarios in order of importance, but that's the one that's coming more clear to me of how to play it. The number two would be, of course, if we we look inside, you know, if we open inside a range and go out of it, or if we open and come in and come back out, you know, looking for repairing of that gap, possible rotation in this lower volume area. However, beware of a short squeeze. If it starts to one time frame by CD period, then it's probably going to come back up and repair these um, anomalies and TPOC, VPOC. So I would look for that. That's scenario 2. And also, you know, beware of it just could rotate in here. Maybe come up, test this value area low, the R2. If we can get above that, we test the value area low. But you know, there's potential for it to look above the overnight high. Take the stops out there, repair the gap, then come back, test the downside, and just end up with a lot of chop and rotation in here. So that would be scenario 3. How wide or big those bars are going to be for the rotation, I don't know. It's kind of hard little scenarios to really cipher out. There's a lot of potential things. I can't cover them all, nor should I try. I just need to take it one step at a time. It's just important to be aware of what's in the road. All right, so this video has gone on for almost a half an hour, so I'm gonna pack it up and ship it.